What if I told you that the Cowboys you watched every Saturday night had already killed men for real? What if I told you that one of the biggest stars in Hollywood flew 25 bombing missions over Japan after going to school in his sister's dress? That America's favorite TV uncle was a Marine dive bomber gunner who had his earphones shot off at 10,000 feet? That one Western star was an OSS commando who ran Nazi blockades on Christmas Eve under a fake name? And what if I told you that the quiet kid from Texas, who starred in 23 westerns, held the Medal of Honor, was credited with killing 241 enemy soldiers, and once climbed on top of a burning tank destroyer and held off an entire German company for over an hour? And by the time we reach number 1, you'll understand why no screenwriter could have invented a story this incredible. These are the 10 Western stars who fought real wars. Number 10, Ernest Borgnine, the Navy sailor who hunted U-boats for 10 years. Before he played Dutch Engstrom in The Wild Bunch, Hermes Ephron Borgnino was hunting German submarines in the North Atlantic. Born January 24, 1917, in Hamden, Connecticut, to Italian immigrants, he saw a Navy recruiting poster while selling vegetables off a truck. Enlisted in October 1935, and he didn't serve for 2 years. He served for almost 10. His first tour put him aboard the destroyer USS Lamberton. After Pearl Harbor, he re-enlisted in January 1942 and was assigned to the USS Sylph, conducting anti-submarine warfare during 1942. The deadliest year for American shipping on the eastern seaboard. He achieved the rank of gunner's mate first class. Borgnine never documented a specific combat engagement. His war was endless patrols, freezing Atlantic nights, and the constant knowledge that a torpedo could end everything in 3 seconds. But the man attracted danger even off duty. While filming Veracruz in Mexico years later, Borgnine and Charles Bronson rode into a Mexican town in full bandit costume, bandoliers, pistols, the works, just to buy cigarettes. Mexican federal police mistook them for real bandits and held them at gunpoint until someone could prove they were actors. His mother gave him his second career. Have you ever thought about becoming an actor? You like being a damn fool in front of people. He won the Best Actor Oscar for Marty on a salary of $5,000. He was still voicing Mermaid Man on SpongeBob SquarePants days before he died at age 95. Number 9, Jack Palance, the boxer who survived a bomber crash. Vladimir Palahniuk, born February 18, 1919, in Latimer Mines, Pennsylvania, son of Ukrainian immigrant coal miners. Father died of black lung disease. Before Hollywood, he fought as professional boxer Jack Bradzo. 15 victories, 12 by knockout. Then he enlisted in the Army Air Forces and trained as a B-24 Liberator pilot. During a training flight over Arizona, his B-24 crashed. Severe injuries to his head and face. Purple Heart. Months in the hospital. Now the widely repeated legend says his iconic face was rebuilt by surgeons. Palance himself denied it. Studio press agents make up anything they want, he said. If it is a bionic face, why didn't they do a better job of it? The crash was real. The extent of surgery is disputed. What's not disputed is that face. When he played Jack Wilson in Shane, audiences were so terrified that some reportedly left the theater. Then, on March 30th, 1992, at age 73, he accepted the Best Supporting Actor Oscar for City Slickers and dropped to the stage to do one-armed push-ups. Billy Crystal's response? Jack Palance just bungee jumped off the Hollywood sign, a boxer with 12 knockouts, a crash survivor, and at 73, stronger than men half his age. Number 8, Glenn Ford, the quick draw king with the complicated record. Glenn Ford had the fastest draw in Hollywood. Multiple sources clocked him at 0.4 of a second. He starred in 3:10 to Yuma, The Fastest Gun Alive, and a dozen other westerns. But his military record is where things get complicated. Born May 1st, 1916 in Quebec, Canada. When World War II broke out, Ford enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve in December 1942. He was ashamed to say he was an actor, so he told the recruiter he was a stamp collector. But here's what the record shows. Ford was assigned to Quantico, Virginia, as a motion picture production technician. He never left the United States. He was hospitalized with ulcers and medically discharged in December 1944. Some sources have claimed Ford ran safe houses in France and entered Dachau. These claims are almost certainly false, traced to confusion with director John Ford, who served with the OSS. What is verified is this. In 1967, he volunteered for 1 month in Vietnam. He traveled from the DMZ to the Mekong Delta on several occasions, and he endured real enemy shelling. He received the Navy Commendation Medal. Glenn Ford wanted to fight. The military gave him a camera instead. The quick-draw king was never allowed to draw his weapon for real. Number 7. Neville Brand, the man who charged a machine gun nest alone. You may have heard that Neville Brand was the 4th most decorated soldier in World War II. He was not. Brand himself repeatedly denied that claim. But what is verified is extraordinary enough. Born August 13th, 1920, in Griswold, Iowa. He served with Company B, 331st Infantry Regiment, 83rd Infantry Division, the Thunderbolt Division. His unit came under intense fire from German machine guns positioned inside a hunting lodge. Brand said, "I must have flipped my lid." He worked his way around to the rear, burst in through the back, and single-handedly killed the German machine gun crews inside. He was wounded on April 7th, 1945, near the Weser River. A gun shot through his upper right arm, pinned down, slowly bleeding. His own words, "I knew I was dying. It was a lovely feeling, like being half-loaded. Silver Star, Purple Heart, Combat Infantryman's badge, and the kind of damage that doesn't show on medals. The booze became medicine," he said. "I'd have a pint of whiskey in the morning just to make a phone call." He channeled that darkness into over 50 Western roles. He starred on Laredo. He was the first actor to play Butch Cassidy on screen. Bruce Dern called him the baddest guy I've ever met in the business. The man who charged a machine gun nest alone couldn't outrun the war that followed him home. Number 6. Brian Keith, the dive bomber gunner. America knew as Uncle Bill. You remember Brian Keith as Uncle Bill on Family Affair, the warm bachelor raising 3 orphaned children. One of the most beloved television characters of the 1960s. What you don't know is what Brian Keith did before that. Born November 14th, 1921. In Bayonne, New Jersey. His stepmother was Peg Entwistle, the actress who jumped from the Hollywood sign in 1932. Keith was 11 years old. He enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserve in the summer of 1941, before Pearl Harbor. He was assigned to Marine Scout Bombing Squadron 244, the Bombing Banshees. His role? Tail gunner in a Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bomber, operating twin 30 caliber machine guns while the pilot dove vertically at Japanese positions from 15,000 feet. He flew combat missions against Rabaul through what Marines called the Valley of Death. On one mission, a 3-foot hole was blown through the wing. His earphones were shot off his head. "Many of my buddies weren't so lucky," he said. On another mission, his gun overheated while 2 Zeros were in pursuit. He fired double red flares in desperation until a Navy pilot arrived and shot one down. He earned the Air Medal, signed by Secretary of the Navy Forrestal and Admiral Bull Halsey. After the war, he became a Western star for Sam Peckinpah and Steve McQueen. His final film was dedicated to Brian Keith, actor, Marine, raconteur. But life kept hitting. His daughter Daisy took her own life on April 17, 1997. She was 27. 10 weeks later, suffering from lung cancer, Brian Keith followed her. The Marine who survived Rabaul could not survive the loss of his child. Number 5. Charles Bronson, the coal miner who bombed Japan. Charles Dennis Bukinski, the 11th of 15 children, a Lithuanian coal mining family in Ehrenfeld, Pennsylvania. He went to school in his sister's dress, worked in the mines at age 10 for $1 per ton. His father died from the dust, first in his family to finish high school. In 1943, he was drafted into the Army Air Forces, assigned to the 61st Bombardment Squadron, 39th Bombardment Group on Guam, nose gunner on a B-29 Superfortress. He flew 25 combat missions over the Japanese home islands, 25 times into that cramped gun turret, knowing the statistics said he might not come back. The 39th Bombardment Group's missions were classified as highly hazardous. A B-29 cruise over Japan faced anti-aircraft fire so thick the pilots called it a black curtain. Bronson sat in the nose, the most exposed position on the aircraft, staring straight down at the flak bursts coming up to meet him. He received a Purple Heart for wounds to his arms when shrapnel tore through the fuselage during a combat mission. When asked about the military later, Bronson said something that tells you everything about where he came from. "I never had it so good as when I entered the army. Men were complaining around me, but I was eating and sleeping well. For me, being drafted was like having a fairy godfather change me into a prince, a man whose best living conditions were inside a wartime barracks." That's how deep the poverty was. He became harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West, Bernardo in The Magnificent Seven, the highest paid actor in the world, the man who went to school in a dress, became the most dangerous face on the biggest screen on Earth. Number 4, Sterling Hayden, the OSS Commando who ran Nazi blockades. The man who played the crooked cop Michael Corleone shoots in The Godfather was a real wartime commando who ran Nazi naval blockades under a fake name, Sterling Hayden. Born March 26, 1916, 6 feet 5. Paramount called him the most beautiful man in the movies. He dropped out of school at 16, went to sea, and by 22 was the youngest ship captain in America. When war broke out, he enlisted in the Marines under the fake name John Hamilton. Because he was afraid fellow Marines wouldn't take a movie star seriously, the OSS sent him to the Adriatic. On Christmas Eve, 1943, Hayden commanded a fleet of 22 vessels crewed by 400 Yugoslav partisans. They crossed the Adriatic in darkness through German-patrolled waters. On Christmas night, he landed on the island of Korčula during a German attack. His driver was killed. Hayden returned fire and escaped to Hvar, which was being bombed by Stukas from above. In the summer of 1944, he parachuted behind enemy lines into fascist-occupied Croatia. He led downed Allied flyers to safety in Italy. Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars, Yugoslavia's Order of Merit. The CIA maintains a profile on him at cia.gov. He starred in Johnny Guitar and Dr. Strangelove. But the war broke something in him. Inspired by Tito's partisans, he joined the Communist Party. When HUAC came calling, he named names. He wrote, I don't think you have the foggiest notion of the contempt I have had for myself since the day I did that thing. An OSS commando who hated himself for surviving his own conscience. Number 3, Lee Marvin, the Marine sniper who barely survived Saipan. Lamont Waltman, Marvin Jr., born February 19, 1924. A descendant of Robert E. Lee and George Washington, expelled from multiple schools, no direction, no future. He enlisted in the Marines on August 12, 1942, assigned to I Company, 3rd Battalion, 24th Marines, 4th Marine Division. Scout sniper. His unit paddled rubber boats to shore ahead of invasions to reconnoiter enemy positions. June 18, 1944, Saipan. Machine gun fire struck his lower back, severing his sciatic nerve. Then, a sniper shot him in the foot. A dead Marine fell on top of him, shielding his body from further fire. An exploding ammunition dump 150 yards away blew him off his stretcher onto his open wound. The evacuation jeep initially drove toward enemy lines before the driver corrected course and got him to the hospital ship USS Solace. We started out with 247 men, and 15 minutes later, there were 6 of us, 13 months in naval hospitals. His father said it ruined him. He came home half dead. He was never the same. After discharge, he worked as a plumber's assistant. While fixing a toilet at a Woodstock theater, he was drafted into a summer stock play. Never looked back. Liberty Valance, Cat Ballou, Best Actor Oscar. His recording of War and Star hit number 1 in the United Kingdom. When asked about war, he said, "It was the Marines who taught me how to act. After that, pretending to be rough wasn't so hard." He is buried at Arlington. His headstone reads, Lee Marvin, PFC, U.S. Marine Corps, World War II. No mention of the Oscar, just his rank, his branch, and his war. Number 2, Charles Durning, from Omaha Beach to the Malmedy massacre. Charles Durning was not primarily a Western star. He appeared in Breakheart Pass with Bronson and a handful of other roles, but his war record is so extraordinary that leaving him off this list would be a disservice. Born February the 28th, 1923, in Highland Falls, New York. Father died when he was 12. 5 siblings died in childhood. His mother took in laundry at West Point to feed the rest. June 6th, 1944. Omaha Beach, First Wave, 1st Infantry Division, the Big Red One. I was the second man off my barge, and the first and third man got killed. He ditched his pack in deep water. I reached shore without helmet or rifle, wounded on June 15th with shrapnel through both thighs, right hand, head, and chest wall. 6 months in English hospitals. Then Belgium. A German soldier ran toward him, carrying a bayonet. He couldn't have been more than 14 or 15. I didn't see a soldier, I saw a boy. The boy stabbed him 7 or 8 times. Durning grasped a rock and bludgeoned the young soldier to death, then held the boy in his arms and wept. During the bulge, Durning claimed he survived the Malmedy massacre. This specific claim has never been independently verified, but what is verified is the sum total. Silver Star, 3 Purple Hearts, Combat Infantryman's Badge. After the war, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts told him he lacked talent. He became a 2-time Oscar nominee. For decades, he refused to discuss the war. There are things I'll take to my grave, he said. He spoke at the National Memorial Day concert for 17 years. Even then, he asked them not to show war footage behind him. He couldn't watch. He died on Christmas Eve, 2012, buried at Arlington. The boy from Highland Falls who survived Omaha Beach and a bayonet attack from a child. The actor they said lacked talent. Number 1, Audie Murphy, the deadliest cowboy who ever lived. Every man on this list served, but one Western star's military record stands so far above every other actor in Hollywood history that it almost doesn't seem real. Audie Leon Murphy, born June 20th, 1925, near Kingston, Texas. 6th of 12 children, sharecroppers. Father abandoned them. Mother died when Audie was 16. He picked cotton and hunted rabbits to feed his siblings. On June 30th, 1942, his sister forged papers saying he was 18. He stood 5 feet 5 and a half, weighed 112 pounds. Marines rejected him. Navy rejected him. Paratroopers rejected him. The Army said, yes. Company B, 1st Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division, 9 campaigns, Tunisia to Central Europe, 241 enemy soldiers killed, 33 awards and decorations, including the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, and 3 Purple Hearts. January 26, 1945, the Colmar Pocket, near Holtzwihr, France. 6 German tanks and 250 infantry attacked his company. Murphy ordered his men to the trees. A tank destroyer behind him took a direct hit and began to burn. Its crew abandoned it. Audie Murphy climbed on top of that burning tank destroyer. Think about what that means. The vehicle was on fire. The ammunition stored inside could detonate at any second, and a 20-year-old kid from Texas climbed up, grabbed the .50 caliber machine gun, and started firing. He was alone, exposed to fire from 3 sides. German infantry and tanks were closing from the front and both flanks. Smoke from the burning destroyer mixed with falling snow. He could barely see. He called in artillery coordinates by a field telephone with one hand and fired the .50 caliber with the other. The Germans kept coming. They reached as close as 10 yards. Close enough that Murphy could see their faces. A bullet tore through his leg. He kept firing. The tank destroyer kept burning beneath him. His men in the tree line were screaming at him to fall back. For 1 hour, he held that position. 1 man, 1 gun, against 6 tanks and 250 infantry. He fired until the ammunition belt was completely exhausted. Then he climbed down, walked back to his company on a wounded leg, refused medical attention, and organized a counterattack that drove the Germans all the way back. His Medal of Honor citation confirmed he personally killed or wounded approximately 50 enemy soldiers in that single action. His artillery direction killed dozens more. They were killing my friends. That's all he said. He was 20 years old. He starred in 44 films, 23 of them westerns. He played himself in To Hell and Back, Universal's highest-grossing film until Jaws. But the war followed him home. He slept with a loaded gun under his pillow for the rest of his life. Night terrors, addiction to sleeping pills. He locked himself in a hotel room for a week and went cold turkey alone. He became one of the first Americans to speak openly about what we now call PTSD, at a time when no veteran dared admit the war was still inside them. When asked how a soldier gets over a war, Audie Murphy said, "I don't think they ever do." On May 28th, 1971, his plane crashed into Brush Mountain, Virginia. He was 45, buried at Arlington National Cemetery. Plain headstone, no Hollywood, no film credits, just a soldier's record, exactly as he wanted. A Navy gunner who hunted U-boats for 10 years. A boxer who survived a burning bomber and did push-ups at 73. A quick-draw king who wanted combat, but was given a camera. A Silver Star recipient who charged a machine gun nest alone. A Marine dive bomber gunner whose earphones were shot off over Rabaul. A coal miner's son who wore a dress to school, then bombed Japan. An OSS commando who ran Nazi blockades on Christmas Eve. A Marine sniper who lost 241 of 247 men at Saipan. A D-Day survivor who bayoneted a boy soldier and carried the guilt for 60 years. And a 5'5" orphan who held off 250 Germans from a burning tank destroyer and said, "I don't think they ever get over a war." These weren't actors playing soldiers. These were soldiers who happened to act. If these stories moved you, hit that subscribe button. We tell these stories every week. The real lives behind the legends your generation grew up watching. And here's what connects every man on this list. When the camera stopped and the director yelled, "Cut," the other actors went home. These men went to sleep, and in their sleep, they were back on Omaha Beach. Back in the dive bomber over Rabaul. Back on top of that burning tank destroyer near Holtzwihr, France. The war scenes they filmed were just scenes. The wars they fought, those never had a final take. Which story hit you the hardest? Tell us in the comments.